Hello everyone, my name is Mthokozisi Mzingaye Moyo. I'm the founder of WasteMoney Private Limited, and I'm here to present on wasted water, tapping into the potential of wastewater. So a bit of background about WasteMoney is that I started WasteMoney in 2018 in my final year of university. I was doing my civil and water engineering at the National University of Science and Technology in Zimbabwe. The aim of WasteMoney is to become a leader in the research and development of groundbreaking technologies in nature-based wastewater treatment, green energy, and resilient cities. This opportunity I noticed while I was doing my industrial attachment or internship, as we may call it, at the local municipal in Bulawayo. So this is where you find Zimbabwe in relative to Africa, and Bulawayo is this red dot. So we noticed that there's about 5 problems really that are troubling the city. The first one being that the dams that supply the city are located in a dry area. So in the past 2 years, there was serious drought. So we found that some neighborhoods were going for upwards of 2 weeks without water. And then while that was the case, you find that the city has a return flow using the city receives about 140 megaliters of water a day, and using a return flow of about 85%, you find that our sewers contain close to 120 megaliters of water. But now there's a challenge with treating that water because the infrastructure is capital intensive and it's costly for the municipals to build new wastewater treatment plants. And then we find that the city is experiencing a heat wave in summer. In the CPT, the temperatures are higher. So this is induced by climate change, of course. And then you find that the city is also having a growing population with over 75% under the age of 24. So there's a booming population that is about to happen in the coming years. Now, the other background to the city is that most of the wastewater treatment plants were built in the colonial era. That's pre-1980. So they've made their design life, and a lot of sewer is spilling into the streams. So our solution as WasteMoney was that we looked to nature for inspiration, and we came across using reed beds as a way of treating the wastewater. So the reed beds in conjunction with UV light. So what happens is that, let me just show you, influent from the municipal comes into the bed. So the bed comprises of gravel, and then you have some reeds that are growing. So as the reeds are growing, they take up the nutrients from the wastewater, and other processes occur in the body of the wetland, which makes the water less polluted and more clear. Now we found out that reed beds are 5 to 13 times less costly than conventional treatment methods. So it's quite a viable option economically for African municipals to adopt it. So after the reed beds, the effluent then comes into the UV disinfection unit. So what it does is it uses a high energy beam to disrupt the DNA structure of microbes such as that of cholera and typhoid, making the water safer. And the advantage of this is that it can be powered by solar, and there's a lot of sunlight in Africa, so it's quite a viable option. So our progress to date as WasteMoney is that we formulated a way to germinate the reeds, and then we designed a trial bed. The technology is already being used in Europe, but we found out that in Africa, there was no one who is growing the reeds. No, not in Africa, I mean in Zimbabwe. There's no one who is growing the reeds. So you have to import and buy. So we thought maybe let's try and grow our own. And then we managed to secure a UV plant treatment machine from our partners in the Netherlands, UV van Remen. And our next phase is the testing. So for that, we might need an autonomous lab, one that is accessible to WasteMoney. So how we got to where we are, it hasn't been easy. It's involved a lot of trial and error. As you can see, these pictures, they were trying to germinate the reeds, and eventually we managed to germinate them. So the financing part has been, it's been like any startup, we needed to bootstrap. So we're upcycling some art, and then that's what we use to fund all of this. More of this, you can find it on Twitter. Now, the financial aspect of the reed beds is that we designed a trial bed of 4 meters by 20 meters by 70 centimeters deep, and the budget was coming to 10,300 US dollars, with the majority of about 55% of the cost being the UV unit. And then we look at the treatment cost, even though a huge chunk of the financial is the UV unit, it then outweighs that in the cost of treating the water. We found out that to treat about 1,000 liters of water, it costs 5 cents for UV light in comparison to ozone, which is very high up, 84 cents. And then what is commonly used here in Zimbabwe is UV light, so it's 68 cents. Capital cost. Over time, it pays itself. And if you use it in conjunction with solar, therefore it becomes even more viable in Africa. So what has COVID highlighted? As you can see, what we're experiencing now, there is need to invest in research startups. This is to make the cities and society more resilient. And on our dream list is a mobile lab, so that we can move around monitoring our streams, like in terms of water quality, and then formulate ways to fix the water as WasteMoney. And secondly, we need to drive nature-based solutions and solar-powered UV light disinfection for wastewater treatment plants in Africa. As you can see, most of the countries in Africa have a growing population, so there is need to deal with the waste that the future populations are going to be generating. And you cannot start innovating when the population is there. We actually need to start now in preparation for the coming generations. And Team WasteMoney. We're a diverse bunch of individuals, as you can see from the team sheet. I have a background in civil and water engineering, hence my drive for coming up with these solutions. And then Roberta is our environmentalist. She's the one who does the research work and then puts things in order. And then Patrice is the one who comes in with the electrical knowledge for powering the UV system. So we make sure we divide the work evenly across everyone. And with that, I thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Roberta, and I'll be the moderator for this panel discussion, where we will be discussing ways of reinventing tomorrow, how we can make nature-based sanitation work. So today I'm joined by Dr. Makaya, Caspar, and Cindy Lovu. So I'm going to give a brief background on Caspar and Cindy. Caspar is a chemical engineer and works with Van Ramen UV Technology, a company which is based in the Netherlands, and they supply sustainable UV systems across the world. Cinderella Ndlovu, is the director and founder of Green Heart Trust, an environmental nonprofit in Zimbabwe. She has a background in wastewater management. And one of our panelists is Dr. Makaya, who is a water engineering expert, and Larry Jawi is an IT expert. So like I indicated earlier, our conversation today is on reinventing tomorrow and making ecological and nature-based sanitation work. So my first question, I would like to direct it to Dr. Makaya. Now, Dr. Makaya, according to the Urban Environment Journal of 2016, less than 15% of domestic wastewater is treated in urban areas in developing countries. What I would like to know, and what I think our viewers would like to know, is this the case for developing countries, and is this the case on the ground for Zimbabwe?
Yes, you will find that wastewater treatment and in terms of the volumes that are lost, indeed, yes, we are losing that much as the developing world in terms of the wastewater that is generated. You are talking about 10%, 15% being lost as untreated effluent. And that amount cannot be treated because of the state of our systems, which are always broken down, because you might be aware that we have adopted a lot of technologies which work because of quite a number of reasons per se.
My second question will be directed to Dr. Makaya again. Dr. Makaya, how feasible is the adoption of nature-based systems in Zimbabwe? And I would also like to know, with nature-based systems, aren't we just reinventing things that we've done before? Isn't this a case of reinventing the wheel all over again?
Thank you very much for that question. Nature-based solutions are very viable in this part of the world, particularly in Zimbabwe, because of the climate that we have here, in terms of the growth and development of phytoremedial species, such as the reed. It's quite feasible. Of course, we are not reinventing the wheel, because there's quite a number of research work that has been done in order to optimize and maximize the performance of these systems. So yes, there is a lot of new developments in that line, and these nature-based systems are quite applicable. We are seeing a lot of new research coming on board to really maximize on the efficiency. So in other words, we are not reinventing the wheel, but actually we are moving forward from history.
All right, thank you, sir. Now, Cindy, you are an environmental scientist, and you have your own organization that works on wastewater treatment. My question to you is, at this point in Zimbabwe or in most developing countries, where we are facing a lot of challenges that include climate change, tackling COVID-19, eradicating hunger, and also meeting the sustainable development goals, should we be at this moment be prioritizing wastewater treatment using nature-based sanitation and ecological sanitation practices?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. I think definitely we have to prioritize wastewater treatment. I mean, considering the effects of climate change on Zimbabwe, we are at a situation whereby our weather patterns have been affected. We no longer have as much rain as we used to. And as Mthokozisi had said in his presentation, we have been witnessing very long dry spells. So if we prioritize wastewater treatment, it means that we are also going to be recycling the little water that we have, so that it's able to go catering for the needs of people, especially in Zimbabwe. We find that specifically for Bulawayo, we are in a very dry region, and because of the impacts of climate change, we were at a position whereby almost all of our dams were running dry. So if we're to prioritize wastewater treatment, it means that we are not going to be losing as much water into the environment from waste treatment facilities where we treat our sewer. It means that we're also going to be reusing this water instead of just throwing it into the environment. And also prioritizing wastewater management means that we are also going to be reducing our impacts on the environment, because it means we would have channeled resources, we would have channeled funds to ensure that all the waste treatment facilities are in order and they are functional. So this means that if we prioritize wastewater treatment, we are going to be capitalizing and improving the quality of wastewater.
There is no doubt a financial barrier for UV light systems for developing countries. So how best can emerging technologies such as these be financed?
Your question is how it can be financed?
Yes, especially for developing countries and for startup organizations such as WasteMoney.
Yes, well, that's a good question. I think the presentation of Mthokozisi showed a sort of the problem and the solution at the same time. Purchase price of Western technology is quite expensive for African standpoints. However, the cost per cube of water treated is quite low. For us as a company, we're looking towards, if we supply companies like yours in Africa, we're looking towards constructions where we can supply parts, we can supply knowledge, and companies in Africa develop the means to produce their systems themselves. So you sort of get the best of both worlds. Also, because it can be difficult as a technology provider to provide technology in a country where you're not experienced with the solutions they need. For instance, you want to use solar power. Here in the Netherlands, we don't use solar power directly for technologies like this. So in many ways, you probably have better solutions for that than us. So the best way to do is to work together and to make sure that the people in Africa benefit as much as possible from it, but also learn as much as possible from it themselves, so they can, so they don't need us anymore at some point, or purely for the parts.
We are also joined by Larry Jawi. Larry, I understand that you are an IT expert, and I think what our viewers would like to know is, what is the role of IT in wastewater treatment?
Hi, Roberta. Thanks for that. So in terms of wastewater treatment, the impact of technology can be best understood by, what is called IoT, the Internet of Things. So the Internet of Things is basically connecting, the existing world to the cloud. So in the how IoT then impacts wastewater management, we can look at detecting harmful chemicals in water, leveraging on data analytics to be able to come up with solutions moving forward, and also in monitoring equipment. So when we talk about equipment monitoring, in Africa, sometimes we've got this expensive equipment that we use in wastewater treatment or just water treatment, and we don't want faults and so on. We don't want it to break down because it was so expensive to acquire, or they can be like leakages and things like that. IoT can help us to fetch that data and to respond more quickly. So, we've got equipment asset management, computerized maintenance management, and those are all things that we can leverage on thanks to IoT.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Now, Mthokozisi, what are the major challenges other than the financial ones that your organization is currently facing that are hindering the progression of your work on the ground?
Hi, thanks for that question. Hey, where do I begin? Okay, I'll start with my favorite one, I guess. So, no one wants to get on a stationary train. Everyone wants to get on a train when it's moving. So when you come and tell people, municipalities, that you want to work on this, they'll ask you, who are you? So where has it been done before? And no one is quite receptive until you've proven it, which is quite fair enough. I think it's fair enough for people to have that resentment, because something new is it's not easy to just take it up and take it in. You need to see it moving. But I think if we're more receptive to innovators and people trying to solve problems, I think we'd move a bit faster. I think that's one challenge that I would really like to highlight that I've come across. Yeah, thanks for that.
Okay, thank you, Mthokozisi. Now, because of our time, I would like to get final remarks from Dr. Makhaya of Dr. Makhaya, where do you see wastewater treatment in the next 10 years for not only developing countries, but for Zimbabwe? Where do you see wastewater management? Where do you see it at?
Thank you very much for that question and remark. Yes, indeed, we anticipate to see market developments in terms of wastewater treatment in Zimbabwe, because as more water becomes scarce and as climate change impacts are really felt, we expect that the value for water becomes more than what it is now, because water has got an intrinsic value. You may not value it according to how much it costs for you to pump it to your own households, but in terms of its scarcity. So as a result, because like we know in terms of how much we lose in a particular urban setup, like we are losing up to 80%, 90% is actually drained. So if we're to recover that, we would have saved a lot in terms of infrastructure development, as far as dam construction and so forth. So I'm seeing wastewater treatment being given more priority in the next 10 years, and more effort being put in research and development in order for us to really harness that amount of water which is actually being drained each day. Thank you.
Cindy, do you see a future where ordinary citizens will accept the notion of reusing wastewater in Zimbabwe, reusing it for domestic purposes, reusing it for agricultural purposes?
Thank you so much, Roberta. I think in Zimbabwe, we've seen people using wastewater already. But the moment when our local authority suggests reusing wastewater, treating it to make it potable, we've seen a lot of resistance from people because they don't understand the whole treatment process and they don't really trust the safety of that process. I think it emanates from the fact that already the tap water that you are getting now, which is from the dam, and it's water that is not recycled, but it hasn't been to the best in terms of quality. So that at the end of the day makes people very skeptical if we are going to be treating wastewater and make it potable. But in the future, I hope that we can be able to gain the trust of residents, of citizens, as they get to understand how the whole treatment process works, and as they also get to trust authorities that are responsible for treating our water, and hopefully we'll be seeing WasteMoney at the top of all these initiatives, and seeing more wastewater being used instead of just being released into the environment and lost. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Cindy. Caspar, any final remarks?
As I was saying, I think the thing I learned most from this is that we have the same challenges also in the Netherlands. It's difficult to get new technologies going. People always ask, where has it been done before? And they never want something that's totally new. We have also problems with scarcity of water, but it's the groundwater levels that are dropping. We're also wasting part of our wastewater by putting it in the river and letting it flow to the sea instead of using it for people. And also here, it's difficult to get people to understand that you can reuse wastewater and that it's a valuable product that should be reused, because water is scarce everywhere in the world, and we have to be, well, smart with it.
Oh, thank you, Caspar. Mthokozisi, what is the future for WasteMoney?
So thanks for that. The vision for WasteMoney really is that we become the pace setters in Africa, and whatever we develop here, I hope that we can spread it up north: Zambia, Malawi, Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya, as far as that, because our problems are similar, and by us doing most of the work, it becomes easier for them to have a stepping stone to start on. So I think that's our future, helping others also get a step on treating wastewater. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining us. I was going to think of something clever to say at the end, but it looks like everything that needs to be said has been said, and it is up to every citizen to make sure that ecological and nature-based sanitation system work for everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.